Welcome to the Menopause Stories podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamara Beckford, founder and medical director of Truly Balanced Wellness Care. This is the space where we stop the guesswork and start the optimization. We're pulling back the curtain on that midlife hijack and giving high-achieving women the clinical roadmaps and unfiltered stories they need to reclaim their edge. Let's get into today's story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Menopause Stories podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamara Beckford, and I have with me today a friend of mine. She is a menopause specialist in the island of JA. That's where we're from. We're bringing you live and in charge type of thing. About this experience, this thing called menopause, the stories. So I'm going to let her introduce herself fully, but I would love for you to welcome my friend, Nicky Clarke. Go ahead, Nicky. Tell us about your role, all the things about you. Let these people get to know who you are.
Hi, Tamara. Thank you so much for having me. And this topic is so near and dear to my heart. I am a coach. I've been a coach for about 6 years. I started Chapter 2 Unleashed about 6 years ago because I was entering my second chapter of life, which was menopause, empty nest, all of these things that women go through in their second phase of life. I'm a spiritual life coach as well as a mindfulness coach. Those were my first two trainings. And then I decided because Chapter 2 is your second phase of your life, and I started menopause, I decided to enter the arena of supporting women along the lines of menopause. And while I was going through it and learning for myself, I really wanted to teach women, and that's what I do. It's my favorite topic. I'll talk about menopause from morning to night.
Hey, I love that because we love to talk about menopause and the stories here on this Menopause Stories podcast. So we have the perfect guest. Now let's think about when we go back. And as you said, you have this as the second phase in life. Can you recall that moment when you feel like, oh my gosh, something has changed? Like, what was going on at that time when you just realized something changed?
Well, I mean, physically, my body started to change. And I think for most women, when that happens, they pay attention. You start to get, weight gain, you get the mood swings, you get this uneasy feeling and the anxiety, and things started to shift. And I was like, I'm not feeling the way I used to feel. I was miserable. I was hormonal. I was crying at a drop of a hat. And this is all while I was coaching women and doing these coaching sessions. And I thought, how can I serve women if I am there? I felt like I was a volcano going off inside of me, and I really just didn't understand this. Literally from 1 week to the next, a pair of jeans couldn't fit me. I'll never forget it. I went to put on a pair of jeans. I was like, okay, last week, I could button them up, but I was like, okay, no, I need to breathe. And I was saying, no, is it something I ate? And I kept going through this whole mindset. And so that's when I realized the body started to speak to me first. And then as a result of that, my mind started to unravel with it. You start to blame yourself. You start to think it must be something that I've done. How could I've done this? And you start to internalize. And I started to internalize this dialogue in my head, like, this is my fault. And so it really started to be, okay, this is a wake-up call. This is definitely a wake-up call. Something's happening here.
Someone mentioned, and I think that this is so appropriate. They said during this phase, we gaslight ourselves. Gaslight is like this big term. And when the person mentioned it, I started looking back and I said, you know what? That's actually true. Us as women, when we're going through this phase, because if you notice, a lot of what we ask of ourselves is, what did I do wrong? What did I eat that was making me gain this weight in 1 week, mind you? And we know physiologically that 1 week, right? What did I do why I'm unraveling this much? What did I do why I'm so emotional and at the drop of a dime, right? We really, really question and put a lot of the blame on ourselves during this phase.
We do.
Wow. So,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
so that
powerful.
moment,
It's really, really powerful.
yeah, absolutely. So that moment you kind of felt off edge. And how did you start to see it affecting your work? Because I mean, like you said, that you are doing heavy work with women,
Mhm.
where it requires a lot of even balance, we say, like where you are guiding them through this powerful phase of their life. And then your life, like you said, is starting to unravel. So how did it affect your work?
Well, I mean, first of all, I started to lose my confidence. Whereas
Mm,
where I would speak from confidence and stuff that I'd been trained in and knew, I started to doubt myself. Do I really have an authority to speak about this? And
mhm,
things like, who really wants to hear what I have to say? Because I'm internalizing. Okay, well, you're not feeling great, and your body is changing, and so
yes.
it almost took like the edge off of my knowledge, if you will, when I started to coach women. I just wasn't, that gusto wasn't there anymore, that energy wasn't there anymore, because my mind started to focus so much on what was happening to my body and this
Mhm,
change, and there's something wrong. And that's where my focus was. So I felt at that time that I wasn't as clear in my
mhm.
coaching as say I am now. Whether
Right.
that's true or not, Tamara, I don't know, because again, we do this to ourselves.
Mhm.
But I mean, my clients stayed with me, and I continued to coach. So obviously, I was doing something right. But
Right.
it,
That's what I was
it,
thinking.
yeah,
They're
it was
getting
definitely the
outcomes, but we're like,
confidence.
I'm not good. Your clients are winning and they're getting all these great
Yeah.
outcomes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It
wow.
definitely the confidence in, because when I would get dressed and look at myself in the mirror, I was like, I didn't love what I saw. So to
Mhm.
translate that into supporting a woman was like, I really had to dig deep, because I
Mhm.
was beating up myself.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I gotta show up for these women. I gotta be that support for that women. So I almost felt like a little bit of like of a fraud, because I was saying,
Yes,
if I can't do it for myself, how the heck can I do it for anybody else? So it
absolutely.
was a turmoil. It definitely was a turmoil.
You're right. And I think that's one of the underlying theme that I'm noticing, even with myself and with the women with whom I take care of, and the women with whom, I have on this lovely podcast. There's this underlying theme that it starts to erode at your confidence because you're questioning all these things about you. But when you really take a bird eyes view, no, you do belong. Like you've been killing it and knocking things out the ballpark for so many years. And then this one period of time comes in and then we question all the skills that we've had for so many years.
Yeah.
But the emotional turmoil that it causes really does erode at our confidence. I think it's so important for those who are listening and the women to listen to catch that. So if you're starting to notice this change, it's not you. There's something going on. Yeah. So what would you say? What was the turning point when you were like, all right, you know what? Something's got to give. It's not me. What was that turning point?
Honestly, I don't know if there was one specific point, because it started with the jeans that couldn't
Mm-hmm.
fit, and it just kept building, and things started to turn, and I would pacify myself, and then it would happen more, and it just kept happening and happening. And that's when I said, okay, I can't ignore what is coming at me. I can't ignore this voice. I can't ignore the body. So it was really a time for me to start the research. Now, of course, we all
Mm-hmm.
have heard about HRT, and for years I said, "Oh, I'm never going to do HRT because you heard all these terrible things about HRT." So it's like, "Nope, I'm going to do it all natural and this and that," and which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that, but
Absolutely.
at that time, for me, I realized I needed information. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to talk. I needed to dig deep and really be vulnerable in saying to my women, look, I'm starting to struggle here a bit with my own internal devices and body, that it's time for me to seek help. It's time for me to start that conversation with my doctor, which is what I did. I started talking to my friends. And the more I did that, I realized I'm so not alone.
Right.
And that, I would have to say, that was my turning point, is when I finally decided to open my mouth and open my mind at the same time. That
Mm-hmm.
was my turning point, when I realized this is going to be okay. I can
Yeah.
do this.
Yes. You know, the confidence, when something erodes at your confidence, at least most of us, not all of us, but most of us, our natural instinct is to start to shrink and to hide, you know? And we shrink and hide, and we're going even deeper into the space where our mind starts to tell us it's just you. No one else is feeling this way. Nope, it's just you. So when you said it, having that confidence to open your mouth and to say something and to talk to someone, confide in, your doctor and then your friends, then this whole space opens up and you realize it's not just me. There's
Mhm.
a whole slew of women who are feeling exactly the way I feel. And
Yeah.
I would say at that moment in time, like, how much of a relief did that bring to you?
Oh my, that was a life-changing moment tomorrow. It was
Mhm.
definitely a life-changing moment for me because first of all, I had to get vulnerable. And
Mhm.
I find some islanders will say that they're the same way. We really don't talk, and be vulnerable. But being vulnerable in public, meaning I was a coach, I was doing online coaching, I was doing group coaching, I was doing all of this stuff and being on social media,
Yes.
that was a big thing for me. Was the minute I started to get vulnerable, I became very uncomfortable. In that being uncomfortable was where I realized that my power was, because so many women messaged me and said, you were clearly in my bedroom when I was getting dressed this morning. You clearly were in my mind because I'm thinking the same thing. And it was like all of this information kept coming back to me. And I said, this is where my power is. This is where my voice is.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that was pushing through that fear, pushing
Hmm.
through that fear of vulnerability and being able to, hey guys, I'm going through menopause. I feel like crap, but guess what? We're going to learn about this together. It was
Yes.
like, it was such a relief. It was like, I've said it.
Yes.
If you don't like what I have to say, you just click, keep clicking,
You
delete,
can
whatever you
click.
need to
You can
do,
scroll on.
unsubscribe, just keep on scrolling. But it was such a huge relief that I was like, okay, now I can do this.
Love it, love it. Now, we go through this phase, and once, as you mentioned, we go ahead and we are confident and comfortably uncomfortable enough to let the world know, hey, this is what's going on. And what? This is a natural phase in our lives as women. It's not often talked about, but it's important because number one, we have gotten this privilege to get to this phase in our lives, right? Because if we weren't alive, we would not have had this privilege to get here. So it's a privilege nonetheless. But we have not been talking about it. So it's a mystery,
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
it's a privilege, but it ends up being a mystery. So now that you're here in this moment and you have, I mean, you have dug deep, you have, done the research, you have done the not just the training, but also this, you've done the medical and the emotional, the physical, all the mental work on this. How would you say that you're feeling now that you decided to take care of yourself?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm like a different person tomorrow. Without a
Hmm.
doubt, I am like a brand new human being
Hmm.
because then I, like you talked about being, shrinking inwards. I was very much behind the camera, behind the scenes, didn't do any public speaking, didn't host events. There was none of that. The
Hmm.
minute that I entered this phase of menopause, spoke about it, did my, medical doctors and doing all of that, I feel physically, I feel on top of the world. Without a doubt, I'm like a brand new person.
Hmm.
Mentally, I am, I can't even describe the freedom. That's the word that
Yes.
comes to my mind. It's freedom of saying, this is who I am at this my stage of life. This is what I want, and I'm not going to stop until I get it, and I'm going to ask for it. So, one of the things that when I started in this whole menopause arena, and it came to me, and of course, I passed it on to my clients, is we are going to go through menopause with or without our permission.
That's true.
That's the bottom line. If it is one guaranteed thing in life other than death, is that women are going to go through menopause. Now, not every woman, as we know, are going to have the hot flashes and the mood swings. They don't. There's some women who go through menopause with absolutely nothing, and I think that's beautiful. But they're still going to go through menopause. No, they may get things later on. That's another story. But my decision to take control of how I was going to traverse menopause,
That's
that's where it was the game changer for me. I knew I was in control of how I wanted to show up, one for myself, two for my family, and three for my clients. Once I realized that I had control over that,
Mhm.
that's when I realized I can drive this train.
Yes. Pull that power back, right? Because like we said, this is almost like a mid-life hijack. Like menopause comes in and it's just like, all righty, I'm taking over the show. And if you aren't aware of all that's available for you, like from the medical standpoint, from the coaching, the therapeutic, even supplement, everything standpoint, then menopause will take over the show. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
and what? However, when you get back in the driver's seat, like you said, then you dictate how you go through this part of your journey, right?
That's
That
where that's what we have control over, Tamara. We don't have a control over a lot of stuff in our lives. We don't. What we do have control over is how we want to show up for those things.
Mhm.
I know it sounds very like a cliche or whatever, but until you actually do it and live it, you realize, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can do this.
Yes, love it. So, what would you say to the next generation of women? Because they're out there, some of them, if they're like me, and I'll just be completely honest, like, I have a friend who is in the medical field. This episode is brought to you by Truly Balanced Wellness Care. Most high level women are told that their lives are normal while they're struggling to lead through brain fog and fatigue. At Truly Balanced, we don't settle for not sick. We architect for peak performance. Whether you need a 30-minute hormone strategy session to audit your labs or are ready for our 3-month Jumpstart Intensive, we provide the physician-led roadmap to get you back to your best. Visit the link in the show notes or go to www.trulybalancedwc.com to secure your spot. Now, back to the conversation. Of course, I have a lot of doctor friends being a doctor, but she's also at one of the women who were out there that recently was public in getting the ban reversal for the black box warning removed. Yeah, for the estrogen, especially for the vaginal estrogen. And I remember being at events with her, and I've known her now for probably like 5 years. And she was like, strong proponent for HRT. And she'll go up to some of our friends and she's like, are you on HRT yet? Are you on HRT yet? And I was thinking, oh, look at Rachel. That's her name. Yeah. I'm like, Rachel's talking. I'm like, I won't even need all of this. Boom, girl. When it hit me, I was like, had I been listening to Rachel all along, I would have probably not have suffered the way that I did during that perimenopause phase for me directly. But when you're younger, you know how they said, like, you don't feel like, I don't need this. I'm not going through any of this. Like, what is she talking about? You're in your early 30s, and then you hear someone in their 40s and 50s, especially if it's not just hot flash when they're talking about mood changes or anything like that. You know what? Girl, that doesn't apply to me. That's what's doing. What would you say to that next generation of woman who at this point is listening to this and listening to our stories and just thinking like, I don't know about that? What would you say?
The first thing I would say is educate yourself,
Ah,
because as I said, menopause is going to happen to you whether you like it or not. If you can get the information before you reach even perimenopause, then you can make that journey of perimenopause and then menopause the best one yet. A lot of women, I mean, the ones that I've coached over the years and spoken to, they've heard and they've listened, but they've gone into it. And then when they're in it, they're like flailing around, don't know what to do, and feeling like they're falling apart. No, if that's the approach that you want to take. But to me, education and
Mm-hmm.
prevention at the early on in your third. I mean, the women that go through, as you know, you're adopted. The
Yeah,
women go through perimenopause in their late 30s.
absolutely.
Is to educate yourself, listen to the conversations, do the reading. You don't. It doesn't. You're not necessarily doing it for yourself, but it's awareness,
Mm,
and we're so thankful for all of the actors and the actresses that have spoken up about menopause and advocated for women. And just listen, just educate yourself, listen to the conversations, and then
mhm.
start the conversations with, if you have questions, talk to your friends, talk to your doctor, find out from your
Mhm.
doctor, okay, I'm not in perimenopause yet, but what can I do to prepare myself for perimenopause? Because it's going to happen, and I don't know how I'm going to be. I don't know how I'm going to be in it. How can I do? What can I do from now?
Mhm.
Because what my philosophy is, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Absolutely.
And you have to, it's just a conversation. It's an awareness of,
Mm,
this is going to be a journey for me. How can I make it the best one yet? Let me get all my tools in
mhm.
my toolkit, have my toolkit ready so that when perimenopause hits, I can go accordingly. So if it's a hot flash, I know what to do. If it's a mood swing, if it's weight gain, I know what to do, so that I
Absolutely.
know I can go into my toolkit. I would suggest try not to gather the toolkit when you're in the depths of perimenopause, because that's hard. That's much
Mm,
harder to do.
absolutely. And as you mentioned, educating yourself is such a huge part of this process. One of the things is part of the education is recognizing the symptoms and that some of these symptoms are not just standard. Some of
Absolutely.
them are like for me, and even for the average woman, I think the average woman goes to probably 5 different doctors before
Yeah.
they are truly diagnosed with, oh, you're in perimenopause, menopause. So once you start accumulating doctors like Pokemon cards, you need to start pulling back and look like what's going on. Because when I thought, like in the depths of it, when I look back, the ophthalmologist, the dry eyes, but
Hmm.
what was I blamed it on? I'm like, oh, I just had my son, so that must have been the reason my eyes were dry. He was like, okay. I'm like, okay. Did not even think about enter because I had my kids late in life, right? And then the frozen shoulder, the musculoskeletal issues, the palpitations or lightheadedness. So I started accumulating eye doctors, I accumulated orthopedic surgeons, I accumulated cardiologists. Like I said, my Pokemon card deck was getting stacked.
Yeah.
And then when you pull back, now you're like, oh, okay. So
Mhm.
if there's anything for those who are in the younger generation, if you start stacking up these doctors, start, taking a step back and ask and introduce that to your doctors because
Yeah.
they are seeing you individually. They might not collectively think like, hey, this is going on. So it's okay, as you said, Nikki, when you went to your doctor, it's okay for you to say, like, you know what? Do you think that this might be
Mhm.
perimenopause? Because I have gone to this doctor for this, doctor for that. And it's like, they're all quote unquote normal, the results, but it's all accumulating. It's okay, ladies, for you to do that. And that if your doctor gets upset at you for bringing that up, that might just not be the right doctor for you. Because
Absolutely.
doctors are open-minded to sit and look at you as an entity, like a whole body, and to sit and listen to what you are feeling.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Because every doctor is going to be have a different approach. And I've
absolutely.
always said to my clients, shop around. I'm sorry. If you go to your doctor, you're not getting the answers, you're not being heard, you're not being listened to, you're not being taken seriously, go to your next doctor. And I hate the word shopping around, but it is the reality, is that
Mhm.
you know what is happening to your body. You are living in your body. You know exactly that something is wrong. They're just going to be reading results and numbers and whatnot. And yes, that's their job, but you need to find a doctor that's going to listen to you. That's the
Mm,
key. It's not just read results and say, well, everything's normal, so it's all in your head. Or you need
girl,
somebody who is
right?
going to listen to you, because you know your body. I've had doctors tell me, I can look at these numbers all day long, but I want to hear from you. Exactly
There
is
it
it
is.
that you're living in your body? So I want to hear from you. What exactly are you experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to keep at it. Do not give up until you find the doctor is going to listen to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's usually when the breakthrough happens. And
Yeah.
that's when there is an alignment on both sides, where the patient gets the results and the doctor gets the results.
Well,
And
also,
that,
it's just something, but it's also conversation. You're a doctor, Tamara, so you understand. But,
mhm,
so many doctors that I have gone through, as you said, for the heart or the skin or whatever, all of them have heard what I've said, and they've actually said to me, I have learned something from you. Because
mhm,
as you know, doctors of back when were never trained how to deal with menopause. They didn't know what menopause was. They had no training.
no,
So all of this
even the
awareness is coming.
OBGYNs, even the women
Exactly.
doctors, they're trained how
Exactly.
to take care
Exactly.
of period and
Yes.
babies. And ta-da, thank you so much.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, when you find a doctor that says, wow, I'm learning so much from you, that means you are able to communicate with that doctor and that doctor is willing to listen. If
Absolutely.
they shut you down and say, oh, no, take these tablets because you're depressed or whatever, it's time to keep having that conversation. Just keep going. Just keep going until you find that one person who's really going to listen to you, that one doctor that's really going to listen to you because you're living in your body,
Absolutely. Connection is key. So you connecting with your body, you connecting with the right doctor, the provider, or whomever it is that can get you through this phase, because it is possible to get through the phase. And that's the important thing for you to
But
know
you know
that
what,
this.
Tamara? I
Mhm.
will I will interrupt you and say I don't think women should get through this stage.
Okay, go ahead.
I think women should be thriving in this stage.
Oh, yeah.
Menopause is not something that you have to get through and try and get to the other side because you never finish with menopause.
No,
You have
postmenopause is
perimenopause.
after.
Exactly.
Postmenopause is until death
Until you
do us
die.
part.
Absolutely. So the way I coach and the way that I empower my women is don't get through it.
Mhm.
Thrive while you're in it. Be the best version of yourself while
Absolutely.
you're going through the hot flashes, while you're learning about vaginal dryness, while you're learning about your hair falling out. Be the best version that you can be in that stage.
Mm.
Because when we talk about getting through something, to me, it's like you
Like,
just have to
deal with
plug
it
it.
until it's done.
Exactly. So that's what I teach my clients is be the best. How can I be the best version of myself during menopause? Because
Mhm.
as you said earlier, it's a gift that is given to us. It's a privilege and it's a gift. And with that gift comes so much that women don't look at. They're focusing on the hot flashes of the hair loss. They're focusing on all of that
Yeah.
physical stuff. Let's go deeper. Who is this beautiful woman that I'm becoming? This powerhouse, this woman who is going to stop at nothing to get what she wants. And that is what menopause gives us.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you said, who is this woman? Who is this powerhouse? Because as we alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, when you're going through that phase, you forget her.
Yeah.
You start to shrink her. You start
Yeah.
to doubt her. You start to forget that she exists. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we in my practice, the Truly Balanced, we bring you back and get to remind you this person still exists, and we can bring her back out.
Yeah.
So despite you telling yourself, despite you going through this emotionally, once we get your hormones, once we get the mindset, once we get all of that back, you remember this bad mama jamma who looks in the mirror, who steps in the room, who commands the space, who was able to do all of these things with awe from either from their peers. That person still exists.
Yeah.
And this is a way to bring her back. So it's one of the things I do with my clients, bring her back, just like how you said, like, and then you let them know. I love that you're like, no, we're gonna thrive through this this phase. It's from now until death do us part. So don't just deal with it and we're just gonna make it true. I love that. We're thriving through this second phase of our lives. Now, with that in mind, what song? That was my question for all of my guests. All right. What song comes to mind? What's the soundtrack that was going through your mind during this menopause period? Is either you can give me a soundtrack when you were like deep in it, or the soundtrack that's going to your mind right now?
Well, the one that 5 years ago, when I started to embrace on this passage and become this version of myself, was Tina Turner's song, The Best. Simply
Ah,
the best.
simply the
Better than all same
best.
one.
Dun,
Yep.
dun,
Better than all the rest. Now, maybe this
dun.
song is written about somebody else. I don't know.
It
But
don't
the
matter. It
lyrics of
don't
this
matter.
song was
Yes.
about me, that I am simply the best and I am better than all the rest and I am
Right.
better than anyone
Everyone.
and
Yes.
anyone I've ever met. And that's coming back to loving ourselves, because we
Mhm.
forget ourselves when we're going through menopause because we have what, husband and children and work and all of these other things. And that to me was the best version of myself. And so that Tina Turner song was very much about me becoming the very best version of myself while going through menopause, navigating marriage, navigating kids, navigating a job, navigating everything. But I wanted to be the
Business.
best
Yeah,
version of myself.
I love it. I definitely can't wait to add that to our Menopause Stories soundtrack. That's going to be on
Yes.
Spotify. Yeah, dun, 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 simply the
Yep.
best. And then it's
Fabulous
like that.
song.
Yes, better than all the rest. So if that does not motivate someone, I don't know what else will. I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Nicky Clarke, for jumping on the Menopause Stories podcast and sharing such great wisdom insights into your menopause story with the women who are listening. And if they want to connect with you, is there any particular way that they may do so?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And as I said to you as we started, I could talk about this topic from morning till night. And we haven't even touched on half of this stuff. I mean, I actually,
Right?
like you, have my own, you can call it a podcast, but we call it Menopause Mondays on
Mhm.
YouTube, where we had every guest under the sun. But Chapter 2 Unleashed is my platform that I use. There's a website, the Instagram page, and the Facebook page. And it's, you can use the number 2, or you can write out the word TWO. So Chapter 2 Unleashed, and that you can get through to me, DM me, whatever, however you want to reach out to me. Because as I said, it's all about communicating, talking, sharing.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't know, maybe you don't understand what's going on. And that's the situation I was when I started. And as I said, it's been a game changer for me. I've never felt better in I'm what 3-4 years into menopause now, and I'm like, this is incredible.
Ah,
Incredible. Yeah.
love it. So there is the incredible life ahead. So if you're deep in the trenches, if you're deep in the low confidence, if you're deep in the pigeonholing of your mind, doubt, fear, insecurity, if all of that's going through your mind, just know that there is this version that exists. And that's the version that we want to bring out in you through Truly Balanced Wellness Care. Thank you so much, Nicky Clarke. And I thank my guests and for all of you guys listening. I cannot wait for you to hear more of our wonderful stories on Menopause Stories podcast with Dr. Tamara Beckford. I'll see you guys next time. You've been listening to the Menopause Stories podcast. If today's conversation hit home, don't let your story stay stuck in that midlife hijack. Head over to the show notes to book your strategy session and to join the movement of women redefining their power. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford. Stay optimized, stay bold, and I'll catch you on the next episode.